Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Steve, and this is the Fandom Show. Well, I promised you that I was going to do it, so here we are. It is officially our Ghostbusters Frozen Empire review video. I know this has taken me a while to get done, and man, believe me when I tell you, there's been stuff going on. In fact, I was planning to do this video last week, but I unexpectedly ended up down with COVID. Would not recommend. Among other things, it screwed up my voice for a few days, so I wouldn't have been any good trying to be here on a video anyways. I had to put it off a little bit longer, but there's no more putting it off. I'm here now. I'm doing it now so we can finally commit to this thing. So let's go ahead and do it. Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, tee it up. We're off. Now, you might be wondering, how come whenever I talk Frozen Empire, I always show this particular magazine? Well, this is actually the only bit of Frozen Empire memorabilia, if you will, that I own. And not because I didn't want to buy more, but simply because there wasn't that much of it. And looking for Frozen Empire stuff in stores, I found, a few toys and things like that here and there, but I found that compared even to Afterlife, there just wasn't a whole ton of tie-in merchandise and promotional stuff with this movie. Like I said, there are a few things out there, but for the most part, I didn't really find all that much. The magazine I had to order online, other than the small handful of toys I saw, I think at a Walmart store a while ago. Everything else that I've come across would have had to have been ordered online too, so I'm not sure why exactly it is, but that's not sure why exactly there wasn't more merchandise, but that's why I don't have much of it. So, but anyway, I got a wall of Ghostbuster stuff next to me anyway. I was going to say, I don't know that I need more Ghostbuster stuff, but who the heck am I kidding? I always need more Ghostbuster stuff, right? Anyhow, let's jump into Frozen Empire. This, of course, is the sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife. We're back in New York City at the famous firehouse, and the film picks up with the Spangler family, who are now living in the firehouse, and essentially continuing on the ghost-busting work of their grandfather and the original Ghostbusters. The other stories in the film center around Winston and Ray. Unfortunately, there's not a lot in there with regards to Peter. I think that's because Bill Murray didn't really want to do a whole lot with it, but it's just kind of a shame that he hasn't gotten a whole lot of character development. I mean, the most character development he got was in that scene with him and Dana at the end of Afterlife, so, I mean, go figure, right? But the film does do a great job of doing justice to Winston, and I really love the sweet story that they have with Ray. And as far as the Spanglers go, that was very well executed. I have more to say, but you know what? Let's take a look at a few scenes and clips from the movie, and then I'll jump into the rest of it.
We're gonna need all the help we can get.
Let's get to work.
It's all dark and horny at 12 o'clock.
Imaginable evil, commanding an army of ghosts. With the power to kill by fear itself.
Like, literally scared to death?
We might be looking at a second ice age.
We're gonna need all the help we can get.
Okay, so as far as storyline goes, it's pretty straightforward Ghostbusters stuff. Ray comes into contact with this person who has an old, very special object. Of course, that object has a great evil that's locked inside it, and of course, the Ghostbusters do something to unlock that evil and unleash it upon the city in the form of Garaka, which is a huge, kind of devil-looking guy with giant horns, who's out to freeze New York to its very soul. And then, of course, the Ghostbusters have to show up to save the day and melt the town back into shape. Again, it's pretty cookie-cutter. I don't really expect a whole lot of story depth from a Ghostbusters movie. There are a couple of good side stories, though, with Callie and another ghost. It's a little bit different from most ghosts we've seen in this franchise. I don't want to give too much away. I know most people have seen the movie by now. I don't want to give too much away to those of you who haven't, but that's an interesting little storyline with Callie. And then I do love the storyline with Winston and Ray, or Winston is telling Ray, basically, you're too old for this mess, man. You should be finding something else to do in your golden years. And Ray says to him, Winston, I want to do this for my golden years. I want to hunt ghosts until I can't hunt ghosts anymore. This is who I am. And I mean, that's so cool. And Dan Aykroyd in real life is very much a believer in the paranormal, so I really believe a lot of his own passion was coming through in his interactions in this movie, and I really enjoyed seeing it. As for Peter Venkman, he's just kind of there. I mean, I'm guessing that's because Bill Murray didn't really want to do a lot of scenes for the film, but I really wish we could see more of Peter since he came back in Afterlife. The most character development he's had, or the most interesting scene, if you will, is probably the scene he had with Dana Barrett at the end of Afterlife there. So, it's always fun to see him, but I really wish we could see more in terms of character development. As for the new people, I think the new actors did okay. Patton Oswalt, he's kind of an acquired taste. Either you like him or you don't. Camille Nanjiani's always pretty good. Um, and it wasn't bad for what it was. What disappointed me most about Frozen Empire is the idea from the beginning of the Ghostbusters franchise was that there would be different franchises of Ghostbusters in cities all around the world. In fact, I rewatched the original movie last week. I was at a dentist appointment, believe it or not, but I was watching the original movie, and at the point where they get kicked out of the university and Venkman is trying to lift Ray's spirits, he says, "We are on the verge of establishing the big thing of the late 20th century, paranormal investigation, elimination. The franchise rights alone could make us rich beyond our wildest dreams." So that's always been something that's been part of the franchise, and I really, really wanted to see it. I actually wrote a, I shouldn't probably say this, but anyway, I wrote a fanfic treatment, if you will, for a theoretical Afterlife sequel. And the story that I wrote, there's basically a paranormal evil that starts attacking Los Angeles. And at the time, Winston's wanting to expand out west, but he hasn't yet. So what he has to do is send our team from Oklahoma, which is the guys from Afterlife, out there, and they investigate. And then at the end of the movie, when it looks like the bad guy's going to win, Winston shows up with several other teams of Ghostbusters from around the country to save the day. And then at the end of the movie, we can start to see how the expansion continues. Now Ghostbusters is finally going international. I think that's a particular story beat that's been missed in all the Ghostbusters movies. I mean, not so much the first one, but since that time. Because, yeah, it's cool to be in New York. It's cool to be in the firehouse. It's cool to see Ecto-1 blazing down the street and blasting ghosts. But at some point, it's like, okay, we've done this before. Can we see some new stuff? You know, why can't we see Ecto-1 in Paris or Tokyo or Nairobi or wherever it might be? Let's see some real international ghost busting. That would be fun. And that was really what I was hoping to see in Afterlife that was not there. I really think this movie was primarily made for Ghostbusters fans. I can certainly see how it wouldn't resonate with people who are not fans. One thing I thought Afterlife did do very well is to incorporate some elements of the real Ghostbusters animated series. Here's a few clips from that show so you get an idea of what I mean.
Good night, Winston Zedmore.
Good night yourself, Buster.
Okay, we got him where we want him now.
I knew I should have worn my long undies. What a way to spend Christmas Eve, eh, Peter?
Typical. Come on, let's see if we can find a phone somewhere.
So there you have it. Like I said, I think the film did a great job of incorporating beats from the animated series. You can obviously see where the influence was there. And that's kind of cool that the franchise did do a good homage to that animated series, because for a lot of kids growing up with Ghostbusters, that's something that they remember very, very strongly. In terms of absolute numbers, here's the deal. Frozen Empire has a 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb, and it also has a 42% rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes. For comparison, Afterlife has a 7.0 on IMDb and a 63% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. And for even further comparison, just as a note, the original Ghostbusters movie has 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. Frozen Empire made about $200 million on a $100 million budget, which sounds on paper not too bad. Well, okay, they doubled their money, right? Well, not exactly, because that $100 million budget doesn't include money that was spent on marketing and promotion. So in the end, while it wasn't necessarily a box office bomb in the strictest sense, it wasn't wildly profitable. So that kind of leaves the future of the series in limbo. The hope, of course, was for a third movie. Frozen Empire has racked up a ton of views on Netflix since it debuted there. On there right now if you want to catch it. But, of course, views on Netflix don't necessarily translate to big dollars for the franchise. So even though it demonstrates, yeah, there's some interesting Ghostbusters, our prospects of getting a third movie at this point is like, maybe? I don't know. We'll find out. There is an animated series on the way that was recently confirmed that it's still in pre-production and will be coming to Netflix. I don't know if it's going to be an extension of the real Ghostbusters, or if it's going to be its own new thing, but whatever. It's more Ghostbusters. I'm not going to complain, and we'll see what it's like when it drops. If Frozen Empire does end up being the last Ghostbusters movie with the OGs, I'll say solid way to go out. I think it did justice to the franchise, and like I said, I think it was primarily a film for fans. I think most Ghostbusters fans, generally speaking, were pretty happy with it, myself included. So that wraps up our video review for Frozen Empire. I have plenty more great stuff coming your way. Thanks as always for watching, and I will catch you on the flip side.